My favorite thing really about any con that you get to go to, and I think that's why conventions are so popular worldwide, is because there's such a great community of people. And my favorite souvenir that I get from every place that I travel to are some really interesting conversations with people. So that's the thing that I think I'm taking back the most of, people opening up their hearts and sharing their experiences. I am constantly surprised at the unique experiences that people have had over a common thing. Over time, you start hearing the same things coming from people like, this game meant so much to me, this game helped me through a hard time, but the way that it helped people through is always unique. One of my favorite stories was someone telling me that they started playing The Last of Us, they were a father, they got through the prologue, and they threw the controller down. There's like, I'm not gonna finish this. And several months later, they came back to it and said, I have to finish this because I won't let this thing beat me. And he goes, then I got to the giraffe moment. And he said, I don't want to make too much of this, but I think that in life, you have to go through the hardest part and come back to the thing that you think can defeat you, not allow it to defeat you, to get to your giraffe moment. And I was floored. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, us gamers understand that this is far deeper and far more rich of an experience than people who aren't gamers, who don't play games. But to look at a game and see the impact that it's had and see the transcendency of it, to be able to have something that applies so well to life, to have your giraffe moment is incredible. And whether it be me or Ashley or Neil Druckmann or Bruce Straley or anybody at Naughty Dog, we're constantly surprised and blown away and always grateful for people for sharing their stories. When I first auditioned for Joel, I had to get over myself because I didn't believe that I could be Joel. I was the youngest person that they were seeing for the role. You look at me on paper and I don't look anything like that guy, especially when I auditioned. I didn't have this, there was nothing about me. And there was one line in the audition sides that just really resonated with me, and it's that it said he had few moral lines left to cross. And to me, that is the most revealing statement about who Joel is. Especially when you start the prologue and you see this dad that's just trying to keep his job. You see a loving father that has this great relationship with his daughter. And then you cut to 20 years later and you find this feared, brutal survivor. And to me, there's so much about Joel that we had to discover through the process of what happened in those 20 years that leads to someone who has few moral lines left to cross. And so for me, going into that audition, there was a little secret that I had about Joel that encapsulated that line, that made that a truth about him. And that matched up with what the team thought about the character. And there were several people, I think they saw something like 75 to 100 people for the role of Joel. And really, really good actors. And I don't think that I was any better or worse than them. I just think that I knew something and I understood something about the character in relationship to Ellie. I understood the partnership that the two of those characters needed to have more than just who my character was. And I think that's what really worked. And yeah, that was probably one of the most challenging roles that I think I've ever had and may ever have.
You're a gamer yourself.
Absolutely.
Is it fun to actually get these games that you've been a part of and go, right, I'm going to play myself in this game?
Every time I unwrap one of the games, it's like Christmas. I have a stack of games waiting for me. I've been traveling since Arkham Knight came out, so I get to go back home, and I have 2 days in between, like catching up with work and everything and just being back in the normal life to try to see how far into Arkham Knight I can get. I've been waiting forever for that game. I'm honored that, Rocksteady was kind enough to bring me back for Two-Face. When we did Arkham City, I wasn't supposed to come in and do Two-Face. I was coming in to do Robin, which had very, very few lines. Colette Sunderman, who was the performance director on that, said, hey, do you want to try and do this? And it was for Two-Face, and I grew up watching the animated series, so what Richard Mall did in the animated series was like, if ever I have a chance to emulate, one of the characters in one of the shows that I love more than anything, that's my favorite show, that's what I'm going to do. And fortunately, they were like, yeah, that'll work. We'll sign off on that. I think what Rocksteady has done with the Arkham franchise is unparalleled. You know, they took something, obviously you have 75 years of this rich history of Batman to pull from, but it feels so true to, you know, what us growing up with the animated series, that's the game that we always have wanted to play. And I remember reading the Arkham Asylum graphic novel, and when I found that they were making that into a game, I'm like, how are you going to do this? It's so dark and so rich, and to be able to take that and not only have one game, but to be able to build a franchise that stands shoulder to shoulder with some of the greatest Batman movies we've had with the Christopher Nolan franchise. You know, for me to be able to be a part of that is a crowning achievement for me. I'm super proud.
Not only it's the acting is there, but last night at the ArcadeCon ball, you got to perform live on stage.
You know, I started off as a musician, and I thought that was going to be my calling in life and where I was going to make my dent, put my fingerprint on the world. And it's so funny how life will prepare you and give you the desires of your heart if you're just open to the path that it has laid out for you. And I think that I tried so hard to make my life look the way that I wanted it to look. And then when I finally just gave up and I was like, okay, where are the doors actually opening up versus me trying to kick down doors? And it led me down a path that I couldn't have even imagined, and I can't imagine not being there now. I was able to make an album with friends and do it in a way that is unique and incredible. We got to go to a cabin and lock ourselves away and be able to have the resources to make a really, really good album. You know, I'm not gonna get a Grammy, I'm not gonna platinum a record, I'm not gonna be Taylor Swift, and I don't care. But I made an album that I'm really proud of. And to be able to get up on a stage and say, I played in Dublin, it was so cool to stand up on that stage and watch people dancing and not give a rip about anything else in the world but what was happening right there at that moment. And I think that truly the Irish people are the ones that truly embody that spirit of seize that moment. Wow, that's a good slap. Literally killed the air.